Election Center, and in this video we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's approval rating as it is his last day in office, and also maybe doing a little comparison with past presidents here, talk about sort of where he ranks amongst them. But you can see here on 538 they give him an average of negative 19.4 here on his last full day in office as of recording January 19th 2021. Yeah, that kind of ranks amongst the lower end of in terms of presidents, at least when they've been doing approval ratings. But you can look at this 538 average here. We can also compare with previous presidents, but yeah, negative 19.4 right now. So he did take a dip after all of the mayhem. There was the Capitol storm. He got impeached a second time. After all that, he went from like negative, it looks like 10 or 11 on this average, maybe 9. And now he's at like more like a negative 19 or a negative 20. And of course, slightly different numbers on like different aggregates. This is just a 538 average here. Donald Trump, at least in this average, on RCP, it's kind of the same story. Only time he's been positive was at the very beginning, and he very quickly went into the negatives, and he stayed kind of consistently at the negatives, but he never got to an insanely low point. So he only slightly, on average, only for a slight amount of his presidency did he have a positive in this average. But also he never got like to George W. Bush end of second term levels, or some of these other crazy low, Richard Nixon during Watergate, these types of levels. He never got to this point of going insanely low. And, at the start of 2020 when coronavirus first hit, maybe it was sort of a rally around the leader effect, but a lot of polls were actually giving Donald Trump positive numbers. But yeah, overall, he's kind of been in a not great position for most of his presidency in terms of approval rating. And it's kind of crashed recently to negative 19.4. And looking at some of these other averages, right? Let's compare. He pretty much runs a little behind most presidents, right? On average. But once again, most presidents have gotten a lot higher than him and maybe a lot lower than him. His most recent predecessor here, Obama, at the start was way up. Donald Trump was only a little bit up at the start, but Obama was way up. And Obama got his low point, it looks like, was like negative 8.3 in this average. Donald Trump, he's getting to kind of an all-time low, at least according to this average. I guess he's been earlier in his presidency, like his first year, I think he got actually a tiny bit lower. We can look at some interesting stuff here, like with Bush. He went to like some of the highest numbers we've ever seen for a president at the very beginning in terms of net approval. Let's just switch to approval rating instead of net approval. But after 9/11, he skyrocketed to some of the highest levels ever recorded. And he also went to some of the lowest levels ever recorded, with the recession at the end of his second term, the war. And yeah, it's the same with the other Bush, who had some really sky-high peaks and also a very deep valley at one point. Looks like Bush, though, overall, the first Bush, HW, had overall positive approval rating by the end of his first term. And I think maybe the only president who Donald Trump has a better end of first term approval rating compared to is Carter, at least according to this aggregate. Carter was like at a third approval at the very end. Once again, Carter actually got to some very high points, but he also has plunged very low, and especially at the end. Richard Nixon, at the end of his second term, got to some of the lowest levels ever recorded, 20s. This might be the lowest ever, this little sliver here where it dips really low. Truman was very unpopular at the end of his second term. But I'm going to show you guys this here just on Wikipedia, but the sources used on this seem legit, just like Gallup and stuff. This is a sort of a Gallup poll comparison of Gallup polls throughout time. Throughout just like different presidencies. And we can sort of do a comparison. Donald Trump's highest Gallup approval has been 49%, less than a majority. It was positive. You can see the highest margin was +4. Or I don't know if that was necessarily the same poll. But he has never cracked a majority approval rating, at least in Gallup polls. Obama, he was getting 2/3 in a poll. George W. Bush, after 9/11, getting 90% at his highest. Clinton getting in the 70s. So, yeah, every other president has had a much higher percentage than Donald Trump has ever gotten. Let's also look at the lowest lows. Donald Trump got a negative 28. Obama, his lowest was negative 18. So both of those numbers are not great, but negative 18, hey, that's better than negative 28. And Obama had that 2/3 majority at one point. So yeah, Obama overall, just if you average out the numbers, he was more popular than Trump, obviously. You see here sort of this averaging out of all the Gallup polls ever. The highest disapproval, Trump was getting up to 62%, almost 2/3 at one point. Barack Obama, he got a majority, 55%, but not 2/3. George W. Bush was getting really high disapproval marks at one point. We can look at the margin here. Donald Trump, he got a +4. So just a little bit of a plus in one Gallup poll here. Obama, at the start of his presidency, people were, I think, optimistic about his presidency, where it could go. He was getting major high marks at the very beginning. And, George W. Bush after 9/11, major high marks, +83 here. And, let's look at Carter, who I am curious about. His highest margin was 66. His lowest was negative 31. But, yeah, something that Donald Trump has normally gotten good marks for throughout his presidency is actually the economy. And while Donald Trump has a pretty bad approval rating right now, leaving office, on Real Clear Politics, they put him at negative 17. We can look at his job approval on the economy, where he has, throughout his presidency, generally gotten good marks. Right now, he's at +9, which might be an all-time high on this average, actually. I don't know. Maybe he's gotten higher. But, yeah, he's at a +9 right now in terms of the economy. But overall, he's at a pretty low number. So, you can go through these polls. The vast majority of these give him positive marks. On foreign policy, I think he's actually, for some reason, maybe it's like tough on China, tough on other countries, or whatever. He's getting much better marks than his general approval rating. Maybe it's offset by this +6 he's getting here. That's from way back in November. Less polls. The average is a little weird on here. But, yeah, you can sort of look at individual issues. So that's interesting to look at. He's generally gotten good marks on the economy. I guess he's been more mixed on foreign policy here, but generally kind of negative, at some points really low. And then generally, though, throughout his presidency, he's never been that great. We talk about some of the most popular presidents, like Kennedy, right? Where's Kennedy here? JFK always had a high approval rating, always. Dwight Eisenhower was generally very popular. Ronald Reagan, he was generally pretty popular. He never got, or I guess he got kind of low at one point, but generally popular. We talk about some of the most unpopular presidents. A lot of these people actually still had pretty high highs. So, Bush, he was really unpopular at one point, but he had that really high point too. Talk about Truman, he was generally very approved of at one point, but yeah. And look at the overall average here of every poll they've done on Gallup here. Donald Trump is the lowest out of all these presidents. Even the most unpopular people, W. Bush, he had higher than Trump just because of those much higher highs, right? And so, yeah, this is just an interesting sort of overview here. And, you can compare disapproval. You guys should definitely check this out on 538. It's pretty cool. And you can check out this page on Wikipedia too. But I just wanted to sort of tell you guys maybe sort of what was happening in these presidencies to give them these numbers, and just an interesting comparison video. But yeah, hope you guys thought this was interesting. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're into this sort of content I make. Yeah, I just thought this was appropriate video to make, considering it's the end of the Trump presidency. And yeah, definitely let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments as well. That's another thing I have to say at the end of my video here. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, thought it was interesting, and I'll see you in the next Election Center video. Bye, guys.